Ho, ho, ho. Merry late June. Boy, I literally couldn't be any further from Christmas in either direction if I tried, huh? You know, some people would time the release of a video about the Christmas-themed event map for Hitman around Christmas. Those people are all cowards. In this video, we'll be finally finishing our journey through the first game in the World of Assassination trilogy by taking a look at Holiday Hoarders, set on the Paris map from the first game in the World of Assassination trilogy. After that, we'll be talking about Landslide, a Sapienza reskin, and the last map from the bonus mission DLC pack. Released in early 2017 for owners of the Season Pass, complete first season edition of the game, or the bonus mission DLC bundle, which also contained the previously discussed missions, A House Built on Sand, and the Icon. Let's get this started with Holiday Hoarders. Holiday Hoarders was a bonus mission released for a limited window of time during the holiday season 2016. It was later added as a permanent mission in Hitman 1 in 2017. It then became a limited time mission in Hitman 2 for Holiday 2018, and then became a permanent mission in Hitman 2 Holiday 2019. Finally, it was added as a permanent mission to Hitman 3 for the Holiday update in 2021, and is currently available to play in any of the three games. Holiday Hoarders is a very slight piece of content compared to what I've covered so far, much less extensive than the bonus missions or the Patient Zero campaign, closer in scale to an elusive target mission or an escalation contract. However, it's still really interesting, with more to talk about than most of the escalations, so I wanted to take a quick look at it as part of another video. Instead of a mission briefing video, there's a brief paragraph blurb introducing the mission. The paragraph reads as follows. Happy Holidays, 47. Your destination is Paris, France, and I must confess, this one is a bit of an odd one. Your targets are Harry Smokey Bagnato and Marv Slick Gonif, a pair of professional thieves currently breaking into the
Palais de Walewska.
Bagnato and Gonif are both American nationals now living in Paris after a series of botched break-ins and related violent crimes forced them to leave their home country. We've been hired by a worldwide insurance agency to put an end to the activities of these holiday hoarders, as their activities have proven to be quite costly to our client. You are to retire both thieves with extreme prejudice. One last thing, 47. I've noticed internal security reports of a strange jingling sound in the palace. The source of these sounds is unknown, but might be worth looking into. This is certainly no traditional contract, but I know you're up for the challenge. Best of luck, 47. If a pair of thieves named Harry and Marv sounds familiar, then you've probably seen the 1990 John Hughes holiday classic, Home Alone. The targets of this mission are based on the Wet Bandits, the incompetent pair of villains from the film, which is incredibly cute and is pretty much the entire reason I wanted to cover this mission in this series. The pair are themselves sneaking around the palace, trying to rob the place of 12 specific items without being seen. This is a really fun gimmick for one of these levels. Rather than trying to sneak past security into a target's inner circle, you're tailing a pair of people who don't belong either. If they notice you, they'll even panic and run away. It doesn't count as being compromised because, they're not going to tell anyone. Sneaking around and tailing targets who are themselves sneaking around and trying not to be seen is a really fun change in the formula, and while it's probably for the best that this gimmick was never used in a full map, it's a tremendously fun one-off bonus mission. Harry and Marv are a delight. Not only are they a reference to the Wet Bandits from Home Alone, but the actual characterization is delightful. First of all, they didn't record actual voiced dialogue for these guys. Instead, they both just get a series of hilarious grunts and mischievous chuckles, giving them big The Sims energy. Marv will stop to drink from every wine glass on his route, none of which belong to him, of course. He also stops at 3 separate bathrooms in order to overflow the sinks, a direct reference to Home Alone. He also sets off the diorama, which Sebastian Sato hates so much, next to the makeup area, driving Sato crazy.
Hands off the diorama! I made it!
Plus, he checks himself out in the mirror every chance he gets. Harry, as in Home Alone, is a bit less. He will, however, at one point, throw coins to distract guards in order to sneak past them. The very same trick which the player has been doing the whole game. A plus, I love it. He also steals the fireworks remote, which the player can use for one of the mission stories in the original version of the map, and will set them off in celebration if he and Marv are successful, as the two go behind the mansion to celebrate their successful heist. This is all a sublime example of characterization and the mechanical jokes which the series excels at so well. As opposed to the bonus missions we've talked about so far, this mission is truly just a cosmetic reskin of the original. Not only is the geometry of the level not fundamentally changed, but the placement of the NPCs is the same. The biggest changes, aside from the introduction of 2 new NPCs serving as the targets, are all cosmetic, adding Christmas trees, ornaments, and Christmas presents throughout the level. Also, the weather and lighting have been completely changed, with a light snowfall providing atmosphere for the mission. There are also presents throughout the level, which can be interacted with in order to get fun items like a proximity explosive rubber duck or a ninja star renamed the Xmas Star. The visual conversion is more extensive than I'd remembered when I began working on the episode. These flourishes aren't added to every room of the map, but they're added to more places than I'd expected, including some that you won't even enter through the normal course of the level, like the room with the vampire magician disguise in the attic now being full of leftover, undecorated Christmas trees. Aside from that cosmetic conversion, though, it's fundamentally the same mission. Margolis and Novikov are still patrolling around the level. They just aren't targets this time. The fashion show is still going on according to schedule, the Iago auction is still upstairs. The clockwork of this mission is fundamentally the same. There are just a few extra gears in it. Even the mission stories are still enabled and accessible, if you want to do them for some reason. There's nothing stopping you from becoming Helmut Kruger, calling Margolis, walking the catwalk, and then meeting with her and ultimately poisoning her on this Christmas version of the map if you want to. There's just really no reason to. Another big change, and arguably the biggest change in gameplay compared to the original map, is that, like elusive targets and escalation contracts, but unlike the other bonus missions which I've covered in this series, the save function is disabled while playing Holiday Hoarders. There's no easy way to save scum your way through this mission, which definitely adds to the challenge of the whole thing. If you get seen or caught, your options are either fight, flee and try to return to an unseen state, or restart the entire mission from the beginning. This can make some of the longer and more difficult challenges in the mission pretty frustrating, as I'll explain a little later on. For now, let's move on and examine how the mission actually plays. Rather than mission stories, Holiday Hoarders contains 4 challenges to complete specific tasks in the mission. Completing all 4 of these tasks completes the meta challenge Saint 47, which originally gave you the Santa 47 suit for permanent use in the game, although that has been changed by the time of Hitman 3, so now you only need to complete the map once in order to unlock the suit. Let's look at these challenges one by one. The challenge Bad 47 requires you to pacify Marv 3 times with bricks. This first requires finding 3 bricks, which can be found in one of the presents hidden throughout the level. Which present has the bricks has changed throughout the various re-releases of the map, but I was playing in the Hitman 3 version and I found the bricks in the basement security station. Once you've acquired the bricks, the trick is pacifying him 3 times. Of course, once someone has been knocked out, they can't be knocked out again while they're still asleep. So this asks you to remember that guards will eventually wake up people who have been knocked out, if they find them, when they're convinced there's no present threat. So you either need to knock Marv out somewhere where his body will be found by an NPC, preferably without being seen, or you need to lure someone to his body once he's been knocked out. Once he's awake, he'll panic and run ahead to a point later on in his route, hiding until he's satisfied that he's lost 47. This gives you an opportunity to knock him out again, until he's been pacified 3 total times, at which point you'll be safe to kill him. The next challenge, Ho Ho Ho, involves the level's other gimmick. You'll notice while playing the level that you can periodically hear a musical cue paired with someone saying Ho 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 as you play the mission. This is, of course, Santa Claus. Santa Claus teleports between random locations throughout the mission, each teleport marked by the audio cue that can be heard across the entire mission. If you kill or pacify Santa before he teleports away, then you can steal his costume and become Saint Nick yourself, wearing the Santa 47 disguise. As a side note, I really love that stealing this costume implies Santa's beard and white hair is all part of his outfit. The challenge requires you to kill either of the mission's targets in an accident while wearing the Santa 47 disguise. Doing so, or indeed any kind of kill on the targets while wearing the disguise, will also trigger 47's only dialogue in this mission.
Ho, ho, ho.
Please.
Ho, ho, ho.
The last two challenges, titled Oh Dear and Santa's Little Helper, fundamentally ask the player to do the same thing twice, and most guides tell you to knock them both out in one run. The descriptions are as follows. Oh Dear. Assassinate both Marv Slick Goneth and Harry Smokey Vagnato with a propane flask explosion after they return empty-handed. Santa's Little Helper. Collect all 12 items the burglars want to steal before they do, without assassinating either of them before collecting the items. Basically, there are 12 items scattered throughout the level which the two thieves are on a path trying to grab, 6 items each. The items are the fireworks remote detonator from the original version of the map, a circumcision knife, a saber, the Branson MD2 microphone from the Bangkok level, a cowboy bust, a regular bust, a coconut, an apricot, a cannonball, a toy tank, a battle axe, and a shuriken. Most of these are in strange or funny places, like the shuriken being stuck in one of the dresses on a rack backstage at the fashion show. Both challenges require you to beat the thieves to all 12 items, without killing them first. Santa's Little Helper technically doesn't exclude knocking them out and collecting the items, then snapping their necks, but that would keep the thieves from returning empty-handed, and prevent getting oh dear, so you're better to just do them both at once. What this means is basically looking up a path that lets you get all 12 items within a few minutes before either can reach one of them, and then standing around waiting for 5 to 10 minutes for the two to reach their ultimate destination, standing in front of a pile of propane tanks which can be shot in order to kill them. I really don't like these challenges very much. They're the weakest part of the mission in my opinion. I don't mind the idea of having to beat the targets to the items they're trying to steal, so Santa's Little Helper is alright, even though it's very difficult to do without a save feature, but then Oh Dear is so similar to the other challenge you'll already have completed, it just feels a little bit empty to me. Like, they should have had one challenge or the other, but having both seems so redundant, and waiting on the two thieves to patrol to the propane tanks isn't a great time. Plus, while I didn't test it myself, I found tons of comments on forums while researching this, confused why the challenge wasn't popping for them. It turns out the trick is that they were finding propane flasks and setting it at an earlier point where the two thieves meet, and blowing them up there. This won't work, since the after they return empty-handed part of the challenge means it specifically has to be those propane tanks behind the party. Other propane tanks won't work since they technically haven't completed their patrol routes yet, even if you've already stolen all 12 items from them and they've already met up and discovered that they're leaving empty-handed. It's just kind of a lame part of an otherwise really fun mission, and the fact that the Santa suit originally required completing this challenge made the whole thing extra frustrating. In any case, let's talk about a few details and Easter eggs on the map before wrapping up and moving along. The mission briefing's bios for both targets mention they grew up in Chicago. Chicago is the setting of Home Alone, which is just another cute nod to the film. When you leave the level, you're treated to a special Jingle Bell version of the Hitman mission exit theme. If you let Harry and Marv complete their mission and go through the entire route through the mansion without taking them out, they will eventually join the party at the fashion show. Holiday Hoarders is a lot of fun overall. It's certainly the slightest piece of content I've covered in this series, and will continue to be the slightest piece of content I cover until way down the line when I start needing to cover, like, the 7 Deadly Sins or something. The closest thing to this that I've covered so far is the short episode I did about the Berlin Egg Hunt, another holiday-themed seasonal map, though I'd argue that even that was a more significant overhaul to the geometry and gameplay systems of the mission. Still, I have tremendous fondness for this mission. There's something about this which just really captures the spirit of these games to me. It's a sandbox. The presents, which are scattered throughout the level, really do feel like the developers giving the player a bunch of fun toys and saying, go have fun with these. I think that removing Saint 47 as a requirement for the Santa suit in later versions of the map was a good decision, because the challenges are honestly my least favorite thing about the mission. Specifically, oh dear is a real pain to do, and not in a way I find especially fun. But, aside from that challenge, it's a lot of fun tailing two thieves through a palace, and the sandbox emphasis of the mission, especially once you've already completed the challenges and earned the Santa suit, can be a lot of fun. At the same time, it's a little bit of a shame that this is the only bonus mission the Paris map ever received. Every other map from the first game received at least one bonus mission that was a lot more involved than this one is. Heck, Sapienza had 3 such missions. With how strong the original Paris map is, it would have been nice for each of the maps to get a bonus mission. Giving Sapienza a total of 4 missions, while Paris really only has, charitably, 1.5, is a strange choice to me, even though Sapienza is the fan-favorite map from the first game. As we move on to Landslide, the last remaining mission from the first game, kind of, Hokkaido has the other Christmas mission, the Hokkaido Snow Festival, which is even slighter than this one is, but it was added as Hitman 2 bonus content, so I'm considering it as such for this series. I think perhaps the uneven distribution of the bonus missions is my biggest problem with them in the first game, after revisiting all of them for this series. The second bonus mission we'll be talking about today is Landslide, which was made available on February 2nd, 2017 to all owners of Hitman the Complete First Season, or of the Hitman Bonus Mission DLC Pack, which was formerly called the Hitman Summer Bonus Mission DLC Pack. Landslide is set on a variant of the Sapienza map, at a political rally in the beach section of the town portion of the map. The target is Marco Abbiati, a businessman from Sapienza who has returned to town to run for mayor. Diana describes Abbiati as a silver-tongued right-wing populist who has charmed his way to a serious chance of winning the upcoming election, though he secretly has ties to organized crime, and his election would be a disaster for the townsfolk. In an interesting twist, the client this time around is actually Silvio Caruso, the primary target of the original version of the Sapienza map. Caruso sees Abbiati as a danger to his town and to the entire country if elected, and so has hired the ICA to take Abbiati out. Although it's a small detail, and one only mentioned very briefly in the mission briefing, I like this detail a lot. Not only is it fun to see one of the previous targets show up in a different context, since the Sapienza bonus missions are both set canonically before the events of World of Tomorrow, but also because, once you remember that Caruso is a Providence asset, it provides some nice foreshadowing to the ultimate reveal of just how deep Providence really had their claws into the ICA's inner workings. The ICA like to pretend they're a neutral party, but as the Shadow Client said way back in the intro cutscene after the ICA facility tutorial missions, Providence have been using the ICA as a convenient way of solving their own problems for decades. There actually exists some clever callbacks? Call-forwards. There actually exists some clever references to this mission in the original Sapienza mission. In the mission briefing for World of Tomorrow, Diana refers to Silvio Caruso as a former client of the ICA, a reference to this mission.
Your target is a former client of ours, Silvio Caruso, a brilliant but troubled bioengineer employed by the Ether Biotech Corporation.
If you tail Dr. Lafayette long enough, you can hear him mention that Sapienza is the town where the politician Marco Abbiati died.
Sapienza. That's it.
Hello, Chef.
This is the town where the politician Marco Abbiati died. Oh, I thought it sounded familiar. Interesting. The place has history.
If fearing for the sake of the town and country sounds uncharacteristically altruistic for Caruso, then you've been paying attention. If you non-fatally shoot Silvio Caruso in the World of Tomorrow mission, and then hold him at gunpoint while he panics, there's a chance he'll say,
This is like Abbiati throwing me down the well again.
This is the true reason Caruso is having Abbiati assassinated, using his own wealth and power in order to kill his former bully, and accidentally saving Italy from a mafia-connected politician in the process, which is just... mwah. I've also found a lot of references online to DeSantis discovering that Caruso had Abbiati assassinated because he was his high school bully, but I can't find any more information than that. I spent quite a bit of time tailing DeSantis and exploring World of Tomorrow trying to find this line, as well as searching for footage of this line on YouTube, and I could never find it, so I don't know where it triggers if it does exist. If anyone can tell me where the line is, please let me know. So what's the actual target of the mission like? Well, following Abbiati around paints the picture of an absolute blowhard, with no respect for anyone but himself. He flirts with every woman in his path, condescends to everyone, and is just generally kind of an asshole. During his first patrol through the level, he'll see a couple together outside the church, and will take a photo with the woman, forcing the man out.
Tu sei bellissima. You look lovely. Want to have your picture taken with me?
Oh, yeah, I would love it.
An honor, Mr. Abbiati. Yeah, whatever. Marcia, there. You ready? Good. Now, could you just move a bit to the left? I want to look good next to your beautiful wife.
Oh, we're not married.
Oh,
Not yet.
Good. Could you just move a little more to the left? Of course. Wonderful. A little further? Thank you.
Love it, love it. Mr. Abbiati, you are a legend.
Give me your number.
Oh, wait, do that again?
Mille grazie,
Yes,
bello.
perfect.
If you pay attention to the couple after this, you'll discover that they break up over the incident.
I love her. I love you, Sophia. I love you more than anything.
Abbiati is generally a bully if you didn't get that from the example of his relationship with Caruso. The overhaul of the map is not as extensive as the icon, more akin to a house built on sand. While not as immediately striking as the conversion done to Sapienza in the icon, setting the mission in a portion of the map which has generally been underutilized by the main mission, and changing the time of day, does do a lot to change the feel of the map. The beach square, which is sparsely populated in other versions of the map, is now absolutely packed with a large crowd here for Abbiati's rally, with a large stage set up with a live singer performing in front of a large water installation. There's also a wine bar set up here, as well as a meet and greet place where Marco Abbiati periodically meets with celebrities and backers. Another wine bar can be found near the pier, in front of the path which would normally lead back around to the Caruso estate, although all entrances into the Caruso estate are closed in this version of the map. The church is mostly similar to before, although with fewer NPCs and a generally quiet environment, which will be crucial for one of the mission stories later on. Aside from some smaller NPC additions, like a man passed out on the ground in front of what used to be the weak wall that could be blown into an entrance to the Ether Lab, these are generally the only majorly changed points of interest in the beach area. Up the hill in the town square, there's a market set up selling wine, fruit, and so on. The town square is also full of bodyguards looking for someone, which will become important in a mission story later on. That sums up the changes to the map, so let's move forward to talking about the ways of taking the target out. Unlike the Patient Zero bonus missions, Landslide does contain 5 mission stories, so let's start by going over them. Abbiati is planning on having his picture taken on the pier, in front of some fireworks barges. If you've been paying attention to how these games work, then that should get your brain working. Sneaking onto the pier with a screwdriver allows you to sabotage the fireworks barge. Then, you can find a remote allowing you to set these fireworks barges off, up in front of the cafe, in a section of the map that's been closed off for stage crew working at the rally. Next, you need to get the photographer disguise, which is the most challenging part of this mission story. The photographer patrols back and forth between the photo set and the staff-only section behind it. There is a drink back here which it looks like should be able to be poisoned to lure him away, but I was never able to. Ultimately, I ended up just knocking him out behind the photo set, taking his disguise, and running. Once you're disguised, you can speak to Abbiati in order to bring him out to the dock and take his photograph, which will allow you to detonate the fireworks and take him out.
Oh, God. Okay. How do I look?
Try and look a little more regal.
At the photo op, Abbiati will periodically meet with local celebrities, greet them, shake hands, and take a photo.
Professor Antonio, I am delighted to finally meet you. Rest assured, I don't hold any grudge against you because of those
right into the
opinion
camera.
pieces. I
Right
mean,
in-
who reads
yes.
those little leftist
Perfect.
pamphlets?
Godlike. Thank you.
I'm just joking. I find it so charming that we still cling to this freedom of speech thing. Even for the pinkos and the criminals. I mean, it's not very practical, right? But it's part of what makes our nation great.
Well, thank you, Mr. Abbiati. Let's agree to disagree.
If you sneak into a nearby apartment, you can find Abbiati's personal assistant. And if you listen to him long enough, you can notice that he's feeding Abbiati information about each person he's supposed to take a photo with. So Abbiati knows how to react.
This one is an interesting one, sir. Professor Antonio is the left-leaning intellectual who has written critically about you in La Repubblica. He argued that your campaign promise to personally beat the crap out of those anti-corruption protesters would be a violation of their freedom of speech. Very much the usual leftist BS, sir, yes.
Professor Antonio, I am delighted to finally meet you.
They are coordinating this through a hidden webcam down below, in a van behind the photo op. If you sneak up to it, you can find a note which says that the webcam must not be disabled, or else the assistant will have to manually reset the camera himself. Using this as a way to get the assistant and his bodyguard out of the apartment for a bit, but it's also very easy to sneak in yourself and take both of them out. Once you're in the apartment, you can find Abbiati's personal schedule, which indicates that he has a meeting at the graveyard behind the church with a local union leader.
Mr. Giovannitti hasn't shown up yet. Oh, it's not till later. He is going to be so happy when he sees how rich we're going to be.
Sir, he's scheduled to meet you in 2 hours.
Okay.
Using the microphone the assistant was using to feed lines to Abbiati lets you tell him that the meeting has been rescheduled to now, and direct him back there yourself.
Sir, it's me. Sorry to interrupt.
What? I'm busy here.
Giovanetti's people called. They would like to push the meeting 1 hour ahead, if that's possible.
Like I'm some kind of greenhorn he could just push around. Okay, let me think.
Sir, should I reschedule the meeting?
Are you stupid? No, I will be there.
The graveyard is pretty heavily guarded once Abbiati is there, waiting on the meeting. However, after a moment, Abbiati will get bored of waiting, and will go start peeing on a nearby grave. This grave is directly in front of an electrical strip, which can be sabotaged, electrocuting Abbiati in his own pee, which is... yeah, this is my favorite kill in the mission.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
In the church, you can hear two staff members discussing how the priest, Father Francesco, has gone missing, and how people are waiting for him so they can confess.
I don't understand where the father is gone. Have you seen him?
No, it's very strange. He's never acted like this before.
But we need to find him. People are waiting for confession and...
Maybe it's Abbiati.
What do you mean?
He's looking for him too. And I heard rumors that they have history between them.
Oh, that doesn't sound good. We need to find him. He needs to do his work. God's work.
Yes, you are right.
During Abbiati's patrol route, you can follow him into the church and hear him calling for the priest as well.
Father Francesco, are you home? Please, I need to do my godly duty and confess. Though I have nothing to confess.
You can find the priest on the second floor, where he's hiding from Abbiati. If you get the disguise, you can meet Abbiati and then hear him confess, giving more insight into what his plans for Sapienza are, if elected.
Thank you, Father, for seeing me. I've been looking for you.
I'm listening.
Thank you, Father. I thought you would be more reluctant, but I have sinned. I've committed horrible acts of greed, lust, and more. I'm currently planning on evicting this town and all of the old scum that's been sitting on this gold mine. I did it because of avarice, I'll admit, but this is such a beautiful town. It's far too good for the poor. We can make so much money here. And, well, will you forgive me, Father?
10 Hail Marys, and you're on your way to redemption.
Is that it? You have relaxed with time, Father Francesco. Thought you would put up a fight.
I believe in forgiveness.
Okay. I know you won't, talk. Seal of confession, you know. But I want the church on my side. I'm a good Catholic. So maybe join me on the roof where we can talk a bit more privately about how we can scratch each other's backs. Hopefully see you up there, Father.
You can follow Abbiati up to the church roof. Note that after climbing the stairs, he'll actually get winded. During the meeting, Abbiati will lean over a railing directly above one of the church's spires, and you can push him off, impaling him on the spire. This will award the challenge, Vai con Dio. The stage which Abbiati is scheduled to give a speech on is in front of both some heavy electronics for live music and a water display. By getting a stage crew disguise, either by taking one of the crew out or stealing one from backstage, and a screwdriver, you can sabotage the guitar amp's electronics. Next, you want to interact with a crank backstage to flood the stage. Once this is done, the crew will panic and evacuate everyone on stage, warning of the potentially lethal hazard. Abbiati will begin speaking to the stage manager, who will warn him of the hazard. You want to turn the stage manager's mic on as this happens, which will cause Abbiati to insult him and the people of Sapienza.
Look, I'm sorry, Mark, but there seems to be a problem up on stage. You just can't go on.
What are you talking about, you fucking idiot? How can a stage be a hazard? You must be as stupid as the people out here getting drunk, idiot. I will own this town. Don't you get in my way.
Marco, I think I left the mic on.
The mic on? Oh, okay. Hey, I was only joking. Well, it was just a joke, something the opponent would say. Thank you.
Good work, 47.
Once the crowd is booing, Abbiati will try to save face by taking the stage to talk to them. Once he's in place, you can turn the guitar amp on, fry him, and complete the stage-fried mission story.
And it is nice to be back home in Sapienza. Now, what you heard, it was a joke. Spent so much time in Scandinavia, and their sense of humor is harsh. They talk about everyone like that. Italians, Africans, homosexuals. It's true they make fun of homosexuals because they love them.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
In the town square, you can hear Abbiati's men searching for a man named Bravuomo, a local lawyer who has incriminating evidence on Abbiati, which could ruin his political career. Abbiati wants to meet with the man who is described as a good Samaritan, to see if he can buy or intimidate him. Bravuomo can be found in the bathrooms beneath the town hall, locked inside one of the stalls, hiding from Abbiati's men. If you break into the stall, by either distracting those nearby and picking the lock, or stealing the key from a nearby guard, you can become Bravuomo and meet with Abbiati yourself. Once the meeting has begun, Abbiati will send his guards out of the room, giving a perfect chance to take him out while his back is turned. Note that Abbiati is an enforcer for the Bravuomo disguise, and so, in order to avoid being caught, you need to interact with one of the blend in as lawyer prompts in the room, until his back is turned.
Nice to finally meet you, Bravuomo. I've been hearing a lot about you.
Good things, I hope.
Well, everything is relative, right? Now, I hear that you love our fair town as much as I do, and that makes me happy. We elite need to stick together, build a better world, wouldn't you say?
People talk too much. So, are we gonna do this?
Whoa, slow down, amico. I'm just here to talk. I apologize for the men outside, but I'm very high profile and need protection. We don't need to be enemies. We can become friends.
Keep talking.
You clearly are a man who knows how to cut through the crap. Don't let anyone in, you hear?
That's a Roger, sir.
Bravo, Mo. Let me speak frankly. That's what I do, and that is why the people love me. You have something that can put me in an awkward situation. An unnecessarily awkward situation. For you see, I'm only interested in what is best for this town. And that is money. Now, you can join me, or be against me. What will it be, Bravo? It's a life-altering question.
For extra credit towards a challenge called 47 Chandeliers, you can kill him by dropping the chandelier in the office on him.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
Someone's going nuts with a gun.
Just before going on stage, Abiyati will stop backstage to look in a mirror. While he does this, he is directly below a speaker, which can be dropped on him to take him out.
And man, open it.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
This will award the Crank It to 11 challenge. If you sabotage the stage electronics and turn the guitar amp on before you've flooded the stage, then Abiyati will take the stage as expected for his speech. Once he's on stage, the crank will not be easily accessible, as everyone who is normally on stage will be standing in front of it. But you can still shoot the glass from a hidden vantage point, such as the apartments above, which will fry Abiyati.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
Now, let's talk about some of the details and Easter eggs in the mission. Abiyati will go to a wine bar during his patrol route. The first time he goes to the bar, he'll complain that the wine is too fermented, and ask the bartender to bring out something fresher. If you listen to her complain to her coworker about Abiyati, you'll find out that she decides to mess with him by only changing the bottle out, but not the wine in Abiyati's glass, to see if he notices.
You know what? I'm not even gonna change it. I bet you he'll never even notice.
You know, I bet you're right.
Alright, so you wanna bet?
Oh, no. But just for fun? Sure.
Okay, I'm just gonna disappear and pretend to get another bottle. I'll be right back.
He does not.
Oh, that hit the spot. Just what I needed. Grazie, bellissima.
What'd I tell you? You couldn't tell the difference.
Politicians never done an honest day's work, and always judge a wine by the bottle. Well done, my dear.
When Abiyati is mingling with celebrities during one part of his route, you can hear him talking to an actress and referencing the events of the icon.
Signora Bellini, what a pleasure. I saw your last show in Milano, and I have to say I completely disagree with the camera. You are not a total washout at all.
Perfect.
That scene
Thank you.
where the good-looking executive is sacked because of some bullshit union mumbo-jumbo, I really cried my heart out. You know, that just sums up everything that is wrong with this country.
Oh, that's so very kind of you, Mr. Abiyati. Glad to hear there's still some theater lovers left in this world.
No. You should come to perform here. A few years back, we had the late Dino Bosco make his last film.
Yes, and I heard he died here, too.
Yes, that was unfortunate. But lovely to meet you, and please, vote for me.
Referencing the events of the icon as a few years earlier gives more insight into when that bonus mission takes place in the game's timeline. Two women by the tunnel exit in the town up the street from the rally can be heard discussing how no one has seen Madame Caruso in days, and how the villa has been on lockdown, implying that this mission is set shortly after Silvio Caruso killed his mother, setting it 2 years before the events of the main game.
No, I called and they said she was in bed, which is weird because it was noontime and Madame Caruso was never ill. She's made of steel. It's from the father side, you know, they're mountain people.
Okay, so what happened?
I have no idea. They told me to call back tomorrow and be ready to drop by if the Signora needs me. But people are talking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, this is not coming from me, but I hear a doctor from out of town was called to the house late at night. Stayed for several hours.
Wow. Oh, no. I wonder what that means. I mean, is she dying of something?
Oh, God, no. Don't even say that. No, it just means that whatever's wrong with the Signora, she doesn't want that old fool Dr. Russell to run his mouth off all over town.
Yeah. That's horrible. Well, good for her. Guess we just have to wait and see then.
Guess so.
There's actually also a reference in this mission to it being 2016.
Please. It's 2016.
And Hitman 1 is set in 2019, so if this is when Caruso killed his mom, it should be 2017. So, ding. There are a couple of references to the Batman film The Dark Knight in this mission. During the meeting with Abiyati on the church rooftop, he will ask 47, why so serious?
Well done, 47. I dare say divine intervention is in order.
Why so serious? Look at this town.
There's also a challenge called How About a Magic Trick, to eliminate Abiyati by slamming his head on a pen, a reference to a famous scene from The Dark Knight where the Joker does the same thing. One of the NPCs you can overhear in this map appears to be an executive on the phone for a particularly infamous company, and, yikes.
Hi, it's me again. I had to call you. 2 glasses in, and I am inspired. You have to explain to our PR people, like I told you. Okay, yes, you might find chemicals, specifically our chemicals, in the mother's milk, but honestly, I mean, who wants to suck on those old worn-out titties anyway, right? Our formula, by the way, is much better. More chemicals, more purity in those chemicals, and never mind the whole it may risk the baby's health. You know, it's those guys that like watching women breastfeed that come up with a crazy talk like that. Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't write it exactly like that, Suzanne. 2 drinks in. Come on, get with the program.
One of Abiyati's men, looking for Brav'uomo, will talk about snacks at the market.
No sign of Brav'uomo. No, he's not here. I'll go and check the food stands. Looks like they have some delicious sausages. Yeah, I'll let you know if I see him. There's no sign of Brav'uomo. Wherever he is, he's hiding good. Yep, don't worry, I'll sniff him out. But on that subject, the food market here smells absolutely wonderful. Yum yum. But I'll keep you up to date.
As mentioned in one of the mission stories, Abiyati is looking for a Father Francesco, in order to attempt to bully him into an endorsement. Father Francesco is hiding up above the church, but if you play the organ, he'll get very angry at someone touching expensive church property and come down to try to scare whoever has done so away. If you time it correctly, then Abiyati will find Father Francesco, and you'll get to see how the mission story would have played out had you not been the one in the priest's place.
Ciao, Father. I've been looking for you. I want to confess my sins. For the people, if you know what I mean. I'll see you in the confession booth.
Thank you, Father, for seeing me, for I have... Oh. Well, you always were a bad seed. I don't know if I can stay awake for all your sins. Father, don't worry. One step at a time. Will you take my confession? Do I have a choice? No. So, Father, I have sinned. I have committed horrible acts of greed, lust, and more. I am currently planning on evicting this town of all the old scum that has been sitting on this gold mine. I did it because of avarice. I'll admit. But this is such a beautiful town. It's too good for the poor. We can make so much money here, and, well, will you forgive me, Father?
You never change, do you?
Will you forgive me, Father?
No. You have no soul to forgive.
And you knew of this all along.
Yes, I did. And I will expose you.
No. You. Seal of confession, Father. I have not committed any crime, at least nothing that the Vatican hasn't done before. So, now that that's out of the way, I'll go by with you. I could still use the church's support.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
No, I insist. Oh, and, Hail Mary.
Your confession means nothing. You have to believe it before you can be forgiven, you know.
Oh, I believe it. But I also believe in Darwin. Survival of the fittest. You wouldn't understand. Evolution is not really your thing.
Oh no, I accept evolution. I might be a man of God, but I'm not an idiot.
Losing faith, are we, Father? Well, then you should have no problem with what I'm doing. Now stop being such a party pooper and let's enjoy the view. God created it after all. Oh, look, Father, with the church behind me, we could make this town great.
This town is already great.
Yes. But can you imagine if it was better? I mean, these old houses, they are worthless. People want internet and cable TV and houses that don't rot.
You really believe this, don't you?
No, Francesco, I don't. But the middle class have joined the working class. The rich doesn't want rustic, they want modern. And that is what we will give them, if the church will help. And we both know they like a good investment.
You are insane.
Self-righteous idiot. You always were a bore.
But everyone out there will be homeless. People who vote for you.
They'll get paid, Padre. It's called progress. Something your church has never understood.
Huh? No. I'll break my oath of silence, huh? I'll expose you for the fraud you really are. How about that?
Oh, really? Really? You're threatening me? Well, let me tell you. You are not going to say a word. And you know why? Because you are nothing. Nothing worth living.
Now you listen to... Marco! No! No!
Guess I'd better go to confession. Again.
Target down. Now head towards an exit.
There's another challenge called Guardian Assassin to get the meeting between Father Francesco and Abbiati to take place, but then to save the priest from Abbiati by taking him out. Landslide is not a bad mission, not by any means, but it's probably my least favorite mission in the first Hitman. There's fun to be had in it because it's inherently fun to play Hitman. Learn a new target's patrol route and figure out the fun ways of taking them out. Just move your little bald hit boy around. But something about this level just feels a bit tired to me. Maybe you could argue that it's because it's the fourth Sapienza mission and I'm tired of the map, but I really don't think that's it. I just played the Patient Zero campaign in the last video, and the author was an absolutely inspired mission. I went back to play World of Tomorrow to research some of the connections to this mission while writing the script, and I had a great time. I think Sapienza is such a perfect map, and there's honestly no upper limit on how much I'm willing to play it. I'll keep revisiting this game and Sapienza forever, and I'll always find fun to be had on it. No, I think what it is that there's just less energy to this mission than there are to the other bonus missions in the first game. The Icon, House Built on Sand, Holiday Hoarders, and all of the Patient Zero missions all feel like they have an artistically inspired reason to exist. A House Built on Sand probably least so, but even that has some moments I'll never forget, like taking Matthew Mendola out as the fortune teller. Landslide feels like content for content's sake to me. There's nothing in this mission that feels that inspired to me, let alone as inspired as anything about the Icon or the Cassandra Snow stuff from the author. There's also, no body of written work on this mission compared to the others. The amount of stuff I was able to find about this mission while researching, as opposed to any of the other missions I've covered so far, sparse wiki entries and a few forum comments. That's about it. That's probably largely because it was released quite a while after the final full mission of the first game, and was not promoted as heavily as Patient Zero was. Still, I don't think people were missing all that much if they ignored this one, to be honest. If you're a diehard fan of the trilogy like I am, then it's worth playing once you've played all the other missions, but seriously, a lot of people still haven't played Patient Zero. That campaign is awesome. Go play that before this. I'm pretty sure they're universally bundled together in modern releases of the game. Landslide is not a terrible chore to play. There's still fun to be had on it, and moments of good writing, like Abbiati's relationship to Caruso, which I liked a lot. I also really liked the Guardian Assassin challenge. It's fun to figure out how to time that right in order to get Abbiati to find Father Francesco, and it's always fun to see how Agent 47's meetings would play out with the original person in their place. It's also nice to see the Sapienza Town Hall used in a mission, since this is one of the only uses for it outside of elusive targets and contracts. Still, if Landslide were the mean quality of the missions in the World of Assassination trilogy, and not the floor of it, I wouldn't be making this series. Thankfully, I'm writing this series long after Landslide was released, and I know that things do, in fact, go up from here. And that's Hitman 1. We did it! We've made it all the way through and have covered all the major content contained in the first game in the trilogy. It's pretty fun, I guess. In conclusion, Hitman is a world of contrasts. Alright, now that we've got that first game out of the way, what do you say we start talking about a good video game next time? Next time, we'll be moving into the first main mission of Hitman 2, Night Call, set in Hawke's Bay, New Zealand.
Excellent work, 47. The money has been wired to your account.